It's Friday, May 6th. I'm your host, Marcia Boyles, and I'm delighted to welcome you to Vantage Point. I'd like to introduce my co-host and co-producer, Kathleen Taylor.
Hi.
Hi,
How are
Kathleen.
you doing? I haven't seen you for a while.
Gosh, I think it's been at least a week. Yeah, Kathleen, I think we're doing something really kind of interesting today. There isn't a soul anywhere that doesn't have stress, and even we at Greenspring, even though we thought we were moving into Greenspring to have no stress, we also have stress.
We thought we were going to be under the bubble at Greenspring.
There you go.
Yeah.
Tell us about stress.
Would you like me to introduce our
Please.
partner in crime here today before we do so?
I'll stay anonymous.
That would be hard to do.
This is Dr. Elaine Sorensen. We're so happy to have her here today.
Thank you.
You are, just to sort of give a little background for your personal history, is you have been at Greenspring since 2001, and I know you've been a very active and involved member of the community on the RAC Health and Finance Committees, and also, this is what I had to look up when I saw the letters, Virginia Continuing Care Residents Association at Greenspring, so that's the CCRCs.
VACRA.
Yeah, I didn't know how to say it, so I thought I would have to say the whole thing.
Right,
VACRA, okay. And here's the part where I just go agog. You have your doctorate, you have 2 master's degrees, 3 master's degrees, and your RN.
Yes.
So
That's because I was trying to break the glass ceiling.
yeah, you took it with a hammer then, I think. That's
So
a great
I'm an
thing.
expert in stress.
You are. That was what I was going to say, is that with all of that that you sort of stretched yourself on, you definitely actually stressed yourself in a positive way, which is something that we want to talk about too.
Sure.
Yeah, great. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So yeah, just to kind of talk a little bit about stress in general. As you said, we know everyone every day experiences different kinds of stressors, big and little. And the thing about stress is it's pretty individualized, you know. It's sort of the definition of stress that we think about a little bit is it's a perception of threat. And a perception of threat can be different for all different people. It can
Very
be
subjective.
based on your personality, based on your life experiences. So not everybody experiences stress in the same way, but we definitely have some commonalities, which I think we can talk about later. Stress itself, there are 2 different kinds of stress, and one is the positive experiences of stress, which I found a new word, which is eustress, E-U. S-T-R-E-S-S, eustress, and that's the positive experiences that we have when the stress is related to a challenge, a personal challenge. You might have a new job or a new baby or something like that, where you're having to stretch yourself and learn new ways to respond. But with a positive outcome.
We used to call that motivational
Motivational,
stress.
it's very motivational, yeah. And the other kind of stress is the negative response, which is the distress. When you have different kinds of experiences which cause you alarm. The 2 kinds of distress that we experience are the acute distress, or the acute stress, that can be, the true fight or flight reaction, where you are driving down the road and a car pulls out in front of you and you have that startle reaction. Something that affects you a lot of times more physically, but also it can have an emotional response too. And then the thing that we really want to focus on today is the chronic stress, because that's the kind of stress that over time can really have a very strong negative impact on you physically and emotionally as well. So I know you have a good definition of chronic stress for us.
I can tell you the effects of chronic stress, and that's the kind that goes over and over, day to day, week and week, year after year. So why it's important for people to know that ignoring it really isn't helpful, because it has negative effects. For example, it compromises your immune system as well as your metabolism. It elevates your blood pressure and your chances of heart disease, which none of us want. It increases your anxiety, and that in turn increases your fatigue. And most important, that it hastens the process of aging, and we don't want that.
Absolutely. I know. Marcia, you're going to talk a little bit about the kind of stressors that maybe we share in common on those that are living at Green Spring.
Again, I think we moved here to avoid some stresses out in the world, having our own homes and yards and being responsible for that, and I think just participating in the world itself. Green Spring offered a sanctuary, really. And I think most of those stresses then, we lessened our stress level because we did move to Green Spring.
Also, we lessened our family stress level.
This is true. We certainly did, Elaine. Now, that having been said, there are stresses here that have to do with living terribly closely with one another, and I think that kind of communal living sometimes creates stress, noise, and that kind of thing. But I think the major thing that we're facing at this age and stage is simply medical health issues that we're experiencing, our families, often our peer family members are also experiencing, and our friends are experiencing. So there's great, I think, uncertainty in terms of health issues, medical issues. But I think those are the primary ones that we're looking at here.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Elaine, what are ways, because we're really looking at it in a positive way, what are the things that we might be able to do to kind of mitigate those stressors a little bit?
I'd like to mention three things. One is more of a cognitive thing, and the other is an environmental thing. And the idea is that to realize that we don't have total control over the things that happen to us. But we do have some control, as Virginia Satir used to say, of the way that we react to these things. And fortunately, here at Green Spring, we have a lot of opportunities to get help with that. There are diversions, such as being with people, or there are people to talk to, and which is so important. There are other things that you can do that research has indicated helps your physiological responses. For example, I'm an advocate of laughter, and I'm an advocate of hugs, which we'll talk about later. Things that also, if you're not allergic like I am to everything, having a pet is a good idea. And so we do have the options here to help people who aren't easily motivated. One of the things, if you're not easily motivated, is to know that you can get somebody to help you be motivated, to take some control over the things that are causing you anxiety and stress. So.
Sometimes just talking about it, right?
You bet, like we are doing today.
Exactly.
So. And I know that Marcia has always been one who has gotten groups together and wants to talk about things. And so people here can help each other, as well as going to the staff who are the experts, not only the medical center, and sometimes it is the medical center, because sometimes if your self-help isn't seeming to do the trick for you, then going to a professional is absolutely the thing to do, because just some simple change can make a difference for you.
I think you're hitting on an extremely important thing here, Elaine. The fact that because we're basically a large peer group here, that the sharing of similar interests and anxieties and concerns, I think, helps all of us. And I also think that we can share laughter in a different sort of way, because we're laughing at ourselves, really. And who better to laugh at yourself with a peer?
Somebody who experiences your pain.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Or just the commonality of we're all human, we're all vulnerable.
Yes.
So we're all together in this. And that feels better. Because I think sometimes these stressors can be really isolating. And the idea that you share that experience and another person goes, oh yeah, I felt that way too, can really break down that a little bit.
And so often people think, I'm the only one, maybe I'm crazy, it's only me.
Right.
And that gets, that eats on itself, and that's not a good thing to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that really is one of the many advantages of a CCRC is being able to share our anxieties with people who are usually having the same ones themselves or similar ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think one feels less isolated as a result of this.
And especially as you become the single survivor of your family situation, or you were a single when you came here. When you have a partner, it's a lot easier to share this. You're close to people. For example, you're saying hello, how are you, good morning, or whatever. You're touching people.
Right.
You're involving.
Yes.
You're involved. When you are alone, it's easy to just sort of stay in your place and read or do whatever, and not reach out to the extent that you're actually connected. And I mean physically as well as emotionally connected to people.
I know. Talk to us a little bit about that, about the power of touch and human connection.
Well, I was sort of reviewing some. I used to, as you know, I was a researcher and training director for NIMH, and I was reviewing just some of the things that we used to do in our various activities and projects. And I realized that our culture has changed, and so do the kinds of interventions that are, quote, acceptable to people. We used to be a more formal society. We are now a more casual society. However, besides being a casual society, we in many ways are a more divided society. And so it's not just one answer for everything, or the old tricks don't always work. So some of the things that I find that help, for example, with laughter and hugs, and I'm an advocate of that as the best medicine. We always said that. But they're fun, it's free, and it's easy to use. The old saying, one hug fits all, one size fits all.
That's a good one.
But what happens is that when you have that kind of a positive interaction, and it must be positive. If, for example, a person is not, if it's an unwelcome contact, that increases stress. It doesn't help. So, it's not, they used to have somebody that used to say, stand on a corner and say free hugs. No, that's not the way that works.
That's not what you're suggesting.
No, but in terms of having a positive interaction, when you're stimulating the vagus nerves. And the vagus nerve is the one that then releases the oxytocins and the endorphins. Now, nowadays, the oxytocins and endorphins, everybody talks about. Years ago, they didn't. But these things then create an emotional and health benefit to the individual. And it's important that you seek out these kinds of things. It isn't, and sometimes I think, just like you're having this program, it's good to give people the opportunity to hear somebody say, hey, that may be for me. And so, because it does, these kinds of things, when you laugh or when you talk to people, it stimulates your muscles and it stimulates the brain and all of these reactions which are positive. They give you that little punch up that you need, provided it's done in an appropriate way, at an appropriate time, in an appropriate circumstance. Now that makes it sound complicated, but it doesn't have to be that complicated.
So how do people who maybe are not spontaneous huggers get over the hump in terms of being able to get there?
That's a hard one, and it's different for different people. I was amazed to look at some research recently that said 1/3 of the population studied receives no hug a day, not even one hug a day. And unfortunately, that increases as we get older. And so if people who haven't heard about the value of hugs just know that it's available, maybe people will be more, even if you touch somebody. I want to just read a quotation here from a neurologist who said, a hug, a pat on the back, a friendly handshake are processed by the reward center in the brain, which is why they have a powerful impact on our human psyche. The more contact with others, or on even the smallest physical level, the happier and healthier you'll be. And if people knew that, maybe that would be enough to motivate them to say, or give me a bump or a high five or whatever.
Right, or just a touch on the arm.
You bet.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And so maybe we're just giving people permission to come out of their shells a little bit.
I love that, yeah. the idea of giving
Well,
permission.
I don't know if this is the time to do it, but I
Yes.
would
Yes.
like to tell you about a possibility of starting something that we're going to call the 2H Club. Now, the 2H Club can stand, the H can stand for either happy or healthy, or it can stand for high five or hugs. And what we were thinking of doing is getting, these are just sketches of what might be possible, getting little buttons made that, and so the club has no dues, it has no meetings. All you do is you get,
It's not exclusive.
anybody can ask for whichever one they want. We'll have the high five buttons and we'll have the hug buttons. And the days that you feel like interacting, you put on your button and somebody sees you in the hall and it says, give me a high five, or as Andrew says, the bump. And I mean, it's just a fun kind of, it's not serious, it's just fun. And as long as you're both on the same wavelength, it's beneficial to both people.
Yeah.
So,
I can see that it could change the whole culture of Greensburg.
It might very well.
oh, you're a rabble rouser.
No. Now,
You
let me
just-
ask you this. Would the rules require that the person who gives you a hug also be wearing a button?
You'd both have to have the
You
button.
both have to have the button, so it's a mutual hug.
Unless it's somebody you know,
Right, right.
that you have customarily said, oh, how are
Right.
you, and you hug you.
Right.
But if it's somebody you only know peripherally,
Right.
you recognize the face and the smile, and you know, whatever. If they've got a high five button, you give them a high five. If they've got a hug, how is it okay? I mean, hi, I see you. It might just for the day give you a little boost.
Oh, I think it would.
And what I'm noticing too is I would guess that this would also end up with some degree of laughter.
You're absolutely correct, because just if you see somebody you like, you sort of, oh, hi, and you're sort of giggling or
Yep, yep,
chuckling.
yep. And then
By the way, it also involves staff.
Yes.
We do not discriminate.
All right. I want to be in on this for sure.
Okay.
But since we know that laughter is also important,
You bet.
let's talk about that now.
Well, I mean, it's really the same kind of thing in terms of you are stimulating the positive things in your brain and in your muscles in your body. And so the more you laugh, sometimes you don't feel like laughing, and but you can teach yourself to learn to be receptive to laughing.
You can teach yourself.
Yes, you can.
Now,
Talk about the smile thing.
Okay, well, I'll tell you that years
good.
ago, and it's really years and years ago, in the late 60s and early 70s, when I was in the Palo Alto and Stanford area, as I said before, research and training director, I was working with the Stanford people there, Dr. Fry, who was one of the first people to talk about it, and Dr. Shelley Berman at the VA hospital, and of course Virginia Satir. And Virginia Satir was a great one. One of her mottos had to do with rehearsal for reality. And so when she would have groups, she would, people would say, so they'd be sitting around, and she would say, okay, now let's go like this. And so, of course, looking at each other go like that, already you're starting to laugh.
I was going to say, that would
Yeah.
be funny already.
And then she'd say, well, now let's smile. Okay, chuckle, chuckle, now let's laugh. And people, before you knew it, people would feel more like laughing than they had before. They'd given themselves the permission to do that. Now, that even carried over to the VA when there was a lot of Tai Chi that was going on in California at that time. And so one of Dr. Verman's students said, with my group, at the end of our yoga and Tai Chi, we're going to spend a few minutes doing our laughter exercises. So here are all these people lined up out on the greens at Stanford, and they're all lined up there, and they're starting to go, ho, 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 ha, ha, ha. And by the time they got through, they were all laughing.
Yeah.
And the research showed that it really helped the recovery. So I just, it's easy and it's good for you. So how can you not try to do it?
That's right. That's right. And for those of the cynics in the group, just suspend disbelief and go with it, right?
Exactly, because happier people live longer. It's a fact.
I always thought it was the crabby people that live the longest.
Sometimes crabby people can recover from certain kinds of experiences because crabby people also can be very persistent and dogged about something. But that is a short-term value.
Uh-huh. Okay. No, I never heard that before, that happy people. It would make sense, truthfully. It really would. Now, Elaine, do I remember reading years ago that if you smile, even if you're not happy, that there are still benefits?
Yes, yes, yes.
So, if you're not feeling too chipper and strong, if you just smile.
Because it stimulates your muscle system again.
And it sort of starts out as a grimace and it goes from there.
Yeah, right.
So it changes.
But you know, and this, the laughter therapy is very common now in all of the cancer centers.
Right.
Because,
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yes. And of course, the red nose, have you seen this? You've got the clown nose?
Yes.
And then just anything that and children love that, you know. So, and so do adults.
I was going to say, and grown-ups would as well. Is there anything better than getting together, you know, for a meal or something with friends here and doing a lot of laughing? You always walk away feeling so much better.
Right. Well, you can even do something for yourself when you're eating at home. You know, there are a lot of good books about funny jokes or whatever.
Oh, right.
And you can read a joke and laugh to yourself and nobody cares, you know. I mean, you can do as loud as you want.
One of the things that I just read, but it's just about sort of stress reduction, is going online and looking at like funny animal videos, right? Especially cats.
Oh, YouTube.
YouTube stuff.
Yep,
If you're
yep,
feeling
yep.
down and you just like go online, you're gonna laugh and it's gonna make you feel better.
I often pull up flash mobs because some of them are so clever and make me cheerful.
Sure.
Yeah.
I love those. Yeah, YouTube is full of good stuff like that. That is actually fun. All right, now Elaine, tell us what you're doing in the way of getting this campaign started.
Well,
now, what do you have in mind here? You're envisioning buttons.
it's just little inch at a time, 1 foot at a time, you know.
I know.
You don't, for me, that's stress.
I see, okay.
Because I like to go from here to here in a hurry.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Going slow is stressful, right?
But it's encouraging that, you know, every time I say, well, I think I'm going to give up on this, then somebody says, oh, hey, let's try. That's a good idea. So I'm trying, as you know, through the resident life community, and that because resident life encompasses a lot of different divisions here, all the way from the health center, which is so appropriate, to some of the professionals in the home health and whatever, and social workers and
Community resources.
You bet. So that there are all kinds of people who have a stake in this game, if you will, who are can be part of the support team here.
That's right.
And get out the word. So
yeah, we can help, and I think it has the really strong makings of a grassroots movement. You know, that the residents can really take hold and make it happen.
all we have to find out is how to make these buttons.
All right, so we're putting the query out there. Who knows how to make buttons?
And I suppose you need 1,000 or something.
Well, you know, that's something to be determined, even the size of them and the shape of them or whatever. You know, this was just some drawing just to get somebody's interest, and they probably should be round rather than heart-shaped, because although it benefits your heart, it benefits more than your heart. It benefits your,
And
all
round's
of your
easier
health.
to make.
And it's going to be smaller so that it doesn't, weight you down. But my eyesight, I need to have things bigger. But so that's as far as we've really gotten with the 2H Club. But I just know that it's a possibility, and some people I've talked to have encouraged it. So.
Eileen, I think it's a terrific idea.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Oh, I do. And I think that because one of the reasons that we started Vantage Point was to be able to have conversations started that would continue out into the community. So hopefully this is exactly the launching of this conversation to take out and people talk about in their dining rooms and in different areas and really get a buzz going.
Now, would you like people to contact you if they're interested? I'll put me on the list.
Well, I think they could contact any one of us.
Sure.
Okay.
And
yes, I mean, I can certainly see that once you get the buttons made, that people, sitting at a table in front of each dining room, giving them out. I
Giving them
think
out
it's-
is going to be the easy part.
Oh, absolutely, and the fun part.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, last month was Stress Reduction Month, you know, and so I sort of got reinvigorated, if you will, which this is on the back burner, and I sort of brought it forward again, and now we'll see what happens in May.
Well, I think it's a super idea. Maybe we should be taking donations for you too.
No, we don't need that.
Well, I think we're motivated now.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have, I know we're getting ready to wrap up a little bit, but you have a joke to share.
I do, and of course you must all promise me that you're going to laugh, and I have to do a shout out to Bob Z, because you know Bob Z is always trying to help us have opportunities for laughter.
Yes.
When you have dinner with him or in the movies or whatever. So I borrowed this joke from him. And it's about some conventioners at Texas, some businessmen who were between sessions, and they were in the lounge having a libation and just chatting. And so one of the middle-aged Texans said, "I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Roger, and I own 250,000 acres, and I have 1,000 head of cattle. And they call my place Jolly Roger." The other middle-aged person said, he sneered and said, "My name is John, and I own 350,000 acres. I have 5,000 head of cattle, and they call my place Big John's." And then in between them, the sort of older Texan who said to them, "Well, my name is Irving, and I own 300 acres. Well, what do you raise?" "I don't raise anything." "Well, what do you call your place, Irving?" "Downtown Dallas."
Oh, very good.
One.
Yeah,
Thanks there, Bob.
that's very funny. All right.
So you see that, and I must also say that even if they're groaners, the jokes that are told
Groaners
are
are still
groaners, you still have the positive health responses in your body.
Oh, I see. So that's been tested, groaning versus...
yeah. So you don't have to be afraid to
Oh,
tell a
that's
shaggy
funny.
dog story.
I see. Now that's
right.
called esoteric research, when you're gauging whether a groan has the same medical effect that
Right.
a
Well, maybe
laugh
not the
does.
same, but it's not negative. It's still positive.
I hear you. I think that's wonderful, Elaine.
That was good. That was good. So anyhow, we're going to be wrapping up, but thanks so much for coming on. I think we've
My pleasure.
learned a lot, and we've started a movement,
Let's hope so.
a hug and high
Hopefully.
five movement, and I
Yes.
think we're going to go for it. So definitely,
High five.
high five.
Yay.
All right, we're going to go into our announcements now.